Hey everyone, today we will discuss what Part 11 records means according to the FDA specific rules. We will also share some examples to make it easier to understand what Part 11 records are. As you can see on the screen, the flow diagram which helps to determine whether specific records falls under the scope of Part 11 compliance or not. So let's go step by step. There are three conditions that must be fulfilled for a record to be Part 11 compliant. First is record required by FDA. Second, record maintained in electronic format. And third, record relied upon the regulated activities. If all these three are met, then Part 11 applies. If any of the conditions are not met, Part 11 does not apply to the record. Part 11 applies to electronic record and electronic signatures. These include records required by FDA regulation that are maintained and used electronically. Let's explore the different categories. First is the electronic record that replace paper records. If a rule requires you to keep records and you choose to keep them electronically instead of paper, Part 11 applies. However, if records do not have to be kept under a rule but are stored electronically for convenience purpose, Part 11 does not apply. For example, Part 11 applies for a batch manufacturing record stored electronically that meets predicate rule requirement. Key point to remember here, always check the rules, that is the predicate rule, to decide if your record are covered by Part 11 and document your decision. The second in the list is the electronic record used alongside with the paper record, or we can say the hybrid record. If you keep both paper as well as electronic version of a required record and you rely on the electronic version to perform activities like decision making, compliance or check, Part 11 applies to the electronic record. For example, a paper printout of an electronic logbook, but decision like product release rely on electronic logbook itself. Part 11 applies because the electronic version is being used. Another example, you print a report from a computer, but you mostly use the electronic version to track the progress. The FDA will treat the electronic version as the main record. Key point to remember, decide in advance if you will rely on electronic or paper version of your regulated task. Write this in your procedure or policies. Next in the list is category 3, electronic records submitted to FDA. Records submitted to FDA electronically are Part 11 records, even if the rule does not explicitly state this. Records used to generate submission but not submitted themselves are not Part 11 records. That is, they help to create a submission but are not required by a rule or are not stored electronically. Hence, they do not fall under Part 11. For example, Part 11 applies to an electronic annual product review submitted to the FDA. The last in the list, category 4, electronic signature that act like handwritten signatures that can be used to perform approval, review, or verification required by the rules are covered under Part 11. If an employee sign off electronically to approve a document, Part 11 applies to the signature. For example, Part 11 applies to a quality manager's digital approval on batch record, a reviewer's electronic signature on a protocol document. Now, what's not a Part 11 record? If a rule does not require a record to be kept, but you decide to keep it electronically, Part 11 does not apply. For example, an internal memo is stored electronically that is not tied to a regulatory compliance. For this, Part 11 does not apply. Let's quickly summarize the key takeaways. First, Part 11 applies when electronic records or signatures are used to meet FDA rules. Second, always document your decisions about whether a record or signature falls under Part 11. Third, think ahead to decide whether electronic or paper versions will be the primary source for compliance. This approach helps you to stay compliant without unnecessary efforts. Hope you like the video. If you have any doubt or topics you would like me to cover in future videos, drop them in comment section. Do not forget to like, follow and subscribe DigitUpGain on YouTube. See you soon in the next one. Happy learning!